Across the high plateau of southern Africa, the sun rises over vast stone walls built without mortar, walls that once protected one of the most powerful cities in the ancient world. When European explorers first saw these ruins in the 19th century, many insisted Africans could not have built them. Yet the stones themselves tell a very different story. Hidden beneath centuries of silence lies the memory of an empire that controlled wealth, trade, and influence across continents long before modern globalization existed. Great Zimbabwe was not simply a city of stone. It was the center of a vast network that connected southern Africa to the economies of Asia and the Middle East. At a time when parts of Europe struggled economically, rulers in this region controlled enormous supplies of gold flowing into global markets. But one mystery remains at the heart of this ancient city. Who built these walls, and how did their kingdom shape the wider world? In the 11th century, global trade networks were expanding across continents, linking China, India, Arabia, and the Mediterranean. Across the Indian Ocean, merchant ships carried spices, textiles, ceramics, and precious metals between distant civilizations. Among the most sought-after resources in these markets was gold, and much of that gold originated deep within southern Africa. From the hills and rivers surrounding Great Zimbabwe, precious metals traveled thousands of kilometers to reach distant markets. Merchants arriving at East African ports traded glass beads, silk, and porcelain for African gold and ivory. Many of those goods eventually found their way inland to a powerful and growing city known as Great Zimbabwe. This city became a symbol of authority, wealth, and stability across the region. Within its walls lived rulers who managed diplomacy, trade, and territory across vast distances. These leaders were not isolated kings, but global actors negotiating with merchants from Arabia, Persia, and beyond. Inside the city, daily life flourished as farmers, traders, craftsmen, and warriors worked together to sustain the growing empire. Families lived within circular stone enclosures that formed neighborhoods across the hills surrounding the royal complex. At the center of the city stood an enormous structure now known as the Great Enclosure, a monument whose purpose still inspires debate. Its curved stone walls remain among the largest ancient constructions ever built in sub-Saharan Africa. Building these massive structures required extraordinary planning, engineering knowledge, and social organization. The rulers of Great Zimbabwe commanded resources and labor on a scale few societies in the region had ever achieved. Archaeologists now believe the city may have supported as many as 20,000 people during its peak. Stone walls stretched across hillsides, dividing the city into ceremonial spaces, residences, and elite compounds. Unlike European fortresses, these walls were not primarily defensive. Instead, they symbolized power, status, and the authority of those who ruled within them. Inside workshops, artisans shaped gold ornaments, iron tools, and finely crafted pottery. The city's prosperity depended on a delicate balance of agriculture, mining, and long-distance trade. Caravans transported gold and ivory northward toward ports along the Indian Ocean coast. From there, African wealth entered international trade routes stretching across the Old World. Persian ceramics, Chinese porcelain, and Arabian glass beads eventually appeared within the homes of Zimbabwe's elite. These discoveries reveal something extraordinary. Great Zimbabwe was fully integrated into a global economy centuries ago. For many years, colonial historians refused to accept this truth. They argued that outsiders from the Middle East or Mediterranean must have built the ruins. But modern archaeological research has firmly rejected that claim. Radiocarbon dating and cultural evidence confirm that the builders were ancestors of the Shona people. Great Zimbabwe was not a mystery imported from elsewhere. It was the result of African innovation, leadership, and cultural development. Yet even the greatest cities eventually face change. By the 15th century, Great Zimbabwe's influence began to decline. Trade routes gradually shifted as new regional powers rose in other parts of southern Africa. Some populations migrated northward, establishing new political centers and trading networks. Slowly, the once bustling city began to empty. Markets fell silent, homes were abandoned, and the towering wall stood alone against the landscape. Over time, the great city faded into quiet ruin, but its legacy did not disappear. Today, Great Zimbabwe remains the largest ancient stone structure south of the Sahara. Its name would later inspire the modern nation of Zimbabwe itself. Archaeologists continue to uncover artifacts that deepen our understanding of the civilization that once thrived here. Each discovery reminds us that Africa has always been a dynamic participant in world history. Great Zimbabwe stands as proof that powerful empires flourished on the continent long before colonial narratives attempted to erase them. The stones that remain today are not merely ruins. They are witnesses to a civilization that shaped trade, culture, and politics across an entire region. Empires rise, flourish, and eventually disappear, but their stories continue to influence the world long after their cities fall silent. Great Zimbabwe reminds us that human history is not owned by any single civilization. It belongs to all humanity. And sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones the world almost forgot. If you enjoy uncovering the forgotten empires and hidden histories of Africa, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story waiting to be rediscovered.